Today I'm going to show you how I'm taking some old glass bottles and recycling them into a ring toss game. I actually started this video last year, but I didn't finish filming it until this past week. Anyways, I decided to voice over to get through the project faster, so that's why the audio doesn't match up with the way my mouth is moving. So the first step is we need to prep some bottles. You can use plastic bottles, but I wanted to use these glass soda bottles because I compulsively save glass containers, and also I'm going to show you a fun way to change their color. You can do however many bottles you want. I'm doing 10 for my game. I made sure my bottles were cleaned inside, and then I used a razor to carefully remove the label. To get the sticker goo off, I used this amazing product called Goo Gone. I swear by this stuff, and I will link it in the description if you want to check it out. Once our bottles are cleaned, we can color them using food coloring and PVA glue. When I say PVA glue, I mean a glue like Elmer's White School Glue or Aleene's Tacky Glue, which is what I'm using. We have two options for coloring this way. The air dry method that isn't see-through and it looks like this, and I have a blog article describing that process, so you can check the description for the link to that blog article. Or the method I'm going to show you in this video is the oven bake method, which tints the jars a see-through color. Either method looks awesome. So the baking method. You need glue, food coloring, water, and some way to mix the concoction together. As a quick note, I don't do this part super exact, but a good rule of thumb is to use 1 part water to 2 parts glue, and then use lots of food coloring. So first I'm going to put a little bit of water into a disposable cup, and then I'm going to squeeze a big glop of tacky glue into the cup. Next I'm adding several drops of food coloring. Generally, the more food coloring, the deeper your color will end up, and I personally like the dark rich colors, so I did at least 20 drops for each of my jars. Lastly, mix it all together, and make sure that when you mix that the glue, water, and coloring are completely blended together. At this point, your mixture should be a bit runny, but also a bit thick from the glue. You can mix as many colors as you want, just make sure you mix enough for however many jars you are going to be coloring. Set these aside and we will finish up our prep work. We next need to preheat the oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit or about 150 degrees Celsius. Then we need to prep a surface to bake the jars on. To be honest, this is the trickiest part because our jars bake upside down in the oven for the first bit. I balanced my jars on a cookie sheet that I covered in tinfoil and parchment paper, but as you'll see in a moment, they topple over super easily. So if you can think of an easier way to bake them upside down, please share your ideas in the comments. The important part is you will need something to catch the glue mixture that drips out of the jars when they're baking upside down. Once your oven gets to temperature and you have everything ready, it's time to coat the jars with our mixture. Pour the mixture into the jar that you want to bake, and turn the jar as you go so the inside gets completely coated. You may need to twirl it around to make sure the inner surface gets coated evenly. Then dump out the excess mixture. I can't say that word today. Anyways, you also want to use a damp rag to wipe off any glue that gets on the outside of the jar because it will bubble up and create a not as nice finish. Then once it's cleaned and ready, place the jar upside down in the oven and bake for 10 minutes. As they bake, the coloring will become clearer. In the meantime, you can prep the rest of your jars. Also, this is where things started to go really poorly for me. I accidentally dumped glue mixture all over myself, but at least I was wearing paint clothes. And then while I was cleaning up that mess, my cookie sheet in the oven got heated up and it warped and knocked over one of my jars. I was really afraid that it had broken, but it did survive the fall. But then while trying to stand that jar back up, I knocked the other 2 jars over. So yeah, this project might not be without hiccups, but if I can bumble my way through this DIY, I believe you can too. Okay, once they've baked for 10 minutes upside down, turn them over and bake them for 20 minutes while they're upright, or just until they are entirely clear. Take them out of the oven, let them cool, and bake the rest of your jars. Now that our jars are baked, I'm going to glue soda caps onto the tops of my jars. I'm just using hot glue because that's easy for me, but you could use tacky glue, super glue, whatever you want. At this point, the last thing we need to do is attach our jars to some kind of frame. You have lots of options for this. You can stand them up in a plastic bin from the dollar store, notch holes into wood for them to stand in, or glue them to a sturdy surface, which is what I'm doing. I grabbed this sign from Dollar Tree, and it's this kind of cardboard / wood-like material. Particle board is the word that keeps coming to mind, but I don't know if that's actually what it is. Anyways, this is what I'm using. I just used 1, but you could use 2 if you want to make your base sturdier. After all, they're only $1. My board is notched at one end, so I made a template out of paper and cut the other end to match. I also marked matching holes. A drill would be the easiest way to create the holes, but you can also use an X-Acto knife to make the holes, or you can use a screw and screwdriver to create your holes, which is what I did because that's what I had on hand. Doesn't really matter, just make sure that you have 2 holes at either side of the board. I wanted to paint mine, so I used an acrylic paint and set it outside in the sun to dry. Once it was dry, I used E6000 glue and glued my jars onto the board. You can arrange them however you want, and you can also measure to make sure they are lined up evenly. Personally, I just eyeballed it. Our frame is almost complete, we just need to grab some rope and create some handles. I have this big spool of sisal rope, at least I think it's a sisal rope, that's what my mom keeps calling it. Anyways, I'm using this to make the rings for the ring toss and to create the handles. I cut a piece that is the length I want my handles to be, and then I unwound some of the rope to create a thinner section. I ran my rope through the holes at either end and tied them on the bottom to create handles. Lastly, we need to make our rings by cutting pieces of rope and using masking tape to fasten the ends together. You can measure out a specific length, or you can measure around your bottle and cut it to size like I did. Then I used that first piece to measure the rest of my rope pieces, taped the ends together with masking tape, and my project was finished. I took it outside to play with it, and now you can all see just how bad I am at ring toss. I did land one of the rings, but it was literally the 10th and final ring I tossed. But hey, this game's still fun. I think this project turned out so cute, and it's a great game to have for your summer cookouts. I also like that I was able to recycle and upcycle a lot of materials, which cuts down on cost and on waste. It might have taken me a year to finish this project, but it was worth it. So let me know in the comments if you'll be trying this project, and then see if you can beat my 1 out of 10 ring toss score. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel, click the bell so you know when I post new content every week, all that good stuff. Happy crafting!